Hi, welcome to Big Daddy Bakes. I'm Big Daddy, and today we're going to be making Riga bread. Riga is a Russian-style rye bread with caraway seeds. It is delicious, and it goes really well with smoked salmon and a little cream cheese. So, let's get to it, and I'll show you how to do it. For this recipe, you will need 1 1/4 cups of lukewarm water. That's about 237 grams. 2 tablespoons of honey. 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, which is a packet of yeast, and just a tiny bit more. 1 1/2 cups of dark rye flour. 2 teaspoons of salt. 1 tablespoon of caraway seeds. And with the caraway seeds, you can leave that out if you don't like the taste of caraway, but I actually do in rye bread, so I'm going to leave mine in. 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter that has been melted and cooled slightly, and then 3 cups of bread flour. To start this recipe, we're going to add the water. I temp the water. It was about 105 degrees, so that's what you're shooting for. I also pre-warmed this bowl so it doesn't suck all the heat out of. Then I'm going to add my honey. All right. And I'm going to whisk that a little bit just to break it up. Mix it in with the water. Now I'm going to add my yeast, and I'm going to whisk that in. Then I'm going to add the rye flour. And I'm going to give that a good stir. It's going to be loose, a little watery, which is the way it is right now. And I'm going to let this hydrate, kind of open up that rye just a little bit. So I'm going to let this sit for about 20 minutes. When we come back, we should see it bubbly because of the yeast and the sugars that are in there, and it'll be nice and bubbly. So be back in 20 minutes. Alright, so our bread mixture has started bubbling up. It's risen a little bit in the bowl. And now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. I'm going to put almost all of the flour in. I'm going to just hold back a little bit, probably about 1/2 cup. I'll see if I need it a little later. Then I'm going to put in my melted butter, my caraway seeds, and the salt. Put that right on top. Then I'll put on this, and this will need for roughly 10 to 12 to 15 minutes according to how good your mixer is. If you're doing this by hand, it's going to take at least 10 to 15 minutes to knead until you get a nice elastic bread that looks the way it does. Now, one thing that with this recipe that I found is I'm going to knead this for about 8 or 9 minutes. Then I'm going to stop and let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'm going to start it back up again. So I'm going to start that, and I'm just going to let this mix, and I'll know when I look after the dough comes together. I'll know what looks like it should look, but if it's really wet and sticky after a couple minutes of mixing, then I will need the rest of this flour. I just don't want to over flour it to start with. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this. It's had about 8 minutes of kneading. It's getting there. It's not quite there. I added almost all of the flour that I started with. So now I'm gonna let this rest for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I will come back. Alright, I'm going to continue kneading, and I'll let this knead for 5 more minutes. Alright, so here's our dough. Pull all that off. It's not really sticky. It's very, very slightly sticky, but it's elastic and it's quite smooth. It doesn't look smooth because of the caraway seeds, which are everywhere. You can see them in it. So I have my bowl here. I'm going to put the dough in it. Then I'm going to punch it down, and I'm going to let this rise until it's double in volume. That will take between an hour and an hour and a half. Okay, so as you can see, our dough has risen. It's doubled in volume. I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to cut it in half, so I have 2 equal. And what I'm going to do is punch it down. I'm going to bring this together. So I'm going to press out the air. Flip it over. I'm going to bring this together, and it's going to be kind of a cylinder. Pinch that together very well. Flip it over. And there is our little loaf of bread. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Punch it down, get the air out of it. I'm going to roll it over. Roll it over. Pinch it together. Flip it back over, and they should be about the same size or so. Alright, I have my pan here. Put them on my pan, and then I'm going to let this rise for another 30 minutes or so. It'll get big and puffy, and then we're going to bake it at a 375 oven. So about 10 minutes before the dough has risen, I'm going to turn on the oven, get it up to temperature. The baking will be at 375 for about 35 to 45 minutes, and I'll temp it with my temperature probe. It should be 190 degrees when it's done. Okay, so our bread has risen. I'm going to bake it at 375 for 35 to 45 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on it. When it gets to about 190 degrees, I'll pull it. Alright, here's our bread as it came out of the oven. You can see it puffed up. It has this beautiful dark brown crust. Slice it thinly, serve it with some cream cheese and salmon, or anything you like on rye bread. It's delicious. and I think you'll enjoy making this one as well. Thank you so much for joining us here on Big Daddy Bakes. If you like what we do, please like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment. I love reading them. Also, share with a friend. Thank you so much.